Welcome on Canal de English. I am Elie Smith. Good evening. First, the headlines. In spite of several mutations in the area of communications, in particular with the advent of the hyped social media, radio remains by far the most accessible medium of communications. Today is World Radio Day. It all began in West Cameroon. Now it is celebrated on both sides of the Mongo. What is it all about? You may certainly have asked if you are not in front of your TV sets. It is, of course, the National Youth Day. If there is anything that West Cameroonians have brought in the Union, it is this one and certainly many more. It was celebrated on Saturday, the 51st edition on both sides of the Mongo. Out of the country, we shall be going to Ivory Coast and in other parts of the world, courtesy Annette Ifeti. Those were the headlines. As I announced at the introduction of this news, today is being observed as World Radio Day. The 6th edition is being commemorated under the theme, Radio is You. In the following report, Annette Ifeti looks at the importance of radio today.
In the face of evolving modern technologies in the field of communication, the radio is still the most dynamic, reactive, and engaging medium of communication. This year, focus of World Radio Day is on greater participation, audience, and communities in the planning of radio broadcasting. What justifies the theme, Radio is You. The first World Radio Day in 2012 focused on exploring ways in which the radio can reach even the most remote and vulnerable communities. In 2014, it centered on gender equality and women's empowerment in radio, while youth and radio was the theme for 2015. Then in 2016, the theme was radio in the times of emergency and disaster. According to UNESCO, the radio provides an enduring platform to bring communities together on their way to work, at home, in offices and fields, even in times of peace, conflict, and emergencies. The radio remains a crucial source of information and knowledge, spanning through generations and cultures.
Well, you've heard there from that fantastic report there from Annette Ifeti that radio remains the main medium of communications today, especially here in Africa and in rural areas. And here in Douala again, outstanding students in the Douala 3rd subdivision have been awarded prizes for their hard work. The award ceremony, organized by the divisional officer for Douala 3rd, El-Aj Njoya, is an annual event aimed at encouraging excellence. Gladys Ambo.
This special meal is prepared for the best students who distinguish themselves during the first term of the current school year. As a tradition, after the march past on your day, the divisional officer for Douala 3, El-Haj Njoya Zakaria, extends the celebration by awarding prizes to the best students. He called on the youths to put into practice the head of state message, which urges them to be daring, courageous, and take initiatives, describing them as stars and the ones who light up Cameroon.
Je voudrais ici féliciter ces jeunes qui sont là.
I want to use this opportunity to congratulate these young men who are here. They are not here because we love them so much. They are here because they are the best in the subdivision, who worked hard, So that's why we have decided to share this meal with them.
Avec les meilleurs, les jeunes qui travaillent durement.
The best students in each school were handed over books and other gifts from the divisional officer to encourage them. Parents have lauded the gesture. I am very happy. I do not know what to say. It's God's gift. Government Bilingual High School, Bobongo Petit Paris, received the special prize for obtaining the best results in the littoral region and the second in the country, as published by L'Office du Bac. Local artists and musicians also thrilled invitees with their special melodies.
From the littoral region, we are going straight to the west region, precisely in Kutaba, where the subdivision also celebrated the 51st edition of the National Youth Day. There, as in Douala 3rd, special award ceremonies were organized to encourage also, as Gladys Ambo said, excellence. This time around, more with Christelle Catala.
Long live multiculturalism, long live the 10 regions of Cameroon, long live the President of the Republic. These are some of the messages transmitted by the youth of the Kutaba subdivision in the Noon division on the 11th of February. Pupils and students of the nursery, primary and secondary schools also demonstrated their patriotic engagement through songs and majorettes. The President of the Republic is the overall boss. So when he takes a decision, we have to help him to transmit that decision to the youth. So that is what we have done during the celebration of the 51st edition of the National Youth Day here in Kutaba. In Fumban, over 104 schools, both public and private, took part in the march past. Political parties and associations were also part of the celebration. Special prizes were awarded to the best students by the administrative officials present during the ceremony. It is worth noting that this 51st edition of the National Youth Day was celebrated on the theme Youth and the Challenge of the Construction of an Exemplary Nation, Strong, Indivisible and Emerging.
From the Noon division located in the west region, we are now going upwards, a notch upper, that is in Adamawa, where Gladys Ambo will be relating to us whether the National Youth Day celebration there in Ngaoundéré was different from that which were celebrated in the littoral, the west region. Once again, more with Gladys Ambo.
The population of Ngaoundéré 2 subdivision in the Adamawa region came out massively to take part in the Youth Day celebration. The event started by honoring traditional rulers who were handed over flags by the senior divisional officer for Vina and the support of the head of state to some 16 vigilante groups in the subdivision. During the march past proper in the Ngaoundéré 2 subdivision, 24 nursery schools, 38 primary schools, 13 secondary schools, 7 higher institutions and training centers, and 8 associations and youth movements took part in the Youth Day celebration. The theme, Youth and Challenges of Building an Exemplary, Strong and Emergent Cameroon, were reiterated in songs and messages paraded by the youths to mark the day. We are confident that youths in the Vina and those on Ngaoundéré 2 in particular, who are witnesses of this era of emergence, have listened to the head of state speech. He underscored the need of being a model, exemplary youth citing the lions and lionesses as examples. We are encouraging our youths to follow this example. The award of prizes to best schools and a free screening exercise for HIV wrapped up the Youth Day celebration at the Ndondoma Stadium in Ngaoundéré.
From the Adamawa capital of Ngaoundéré, we are coming back to the Greater South, and we shall be stopping in the country's capital, that is Yaoundé, where our correspondent in the political and administrative capital of Cameroon, Beatrice Ngamo, says the National Youth Day celebration in Yaoundé was colorful. How colorful was it? Details with Beatrice Ngamo.
For the over 28,960 marchers in 2 murders. The opening bouquet announces it is the 51st edition of the National Youth Day, the giant flag of the country, and banner by the youth parliamentarians. Then the theme of this year's celebration, youths and the challenges of building an exemplary, indivisible, strong and emergent nation. Basic education took the relay in the rhythm of patriotic songs in French and in Bolo. The 7 subdivisions, one after the other, made their presence felt, and each time with symbols of the nation and other signs like these stars held high. In secondary education, the messages call for a stop the use of drugs and narcotics, HIV/AIDS, and others. The march past train continues with teachers' training institution, then the higher institutions of learning, the National Institute of Sports and Physical Education, INGS, professional schools, public like private, in varied different fields. 18 structures with social centers and those of the informal sector were not absent. So too, the youth movements. Youths in the firefighter squad, the Association Against Violence to Men amongst many. The youths of political parties crowned the show. Party CM, those represented at the National Assembly, the NUDP, the UPC, and the CPDM. All this before the watchful eyes of some members of government.
The President of the Republic has said everything, has given them the message he had for them, and I'm sure that the youth has understood him and expressed their attachment to the nation, their attachment to our country, and they are ready to bear the emergence of that country.
Parallel attraction is the trophy of the just ended African Cup of Nations display in front of the Tribune at the Yaoundé 28 May Boulevard.
We will stay in Yaoundé, where we hear that buses are back in the political capital of Cameroon, but we hope that this time around they are here to stay and they will be ready and strong enough to weather or be able to climb the different heights and hills of the capital of Cameroon, unlike the other ones. But one of our reporters who were there and who was lucky to test ride those new buses was Tabby Clarkson. How was those buses? Tabby Clarkson has more.
Yaoundé city dwellers will in the days ahead enjoy new transportation buses known as Stacy. The new buses were officially presented in a ceremony that was presided at by the Minister of Transport, Edgar Alengmi-Bengo. Yaoundé will have 150 buses by June 2017, and these buses will cover 13 lines. For now, 5 buses are available and they will cover 5 lines.
With 5 lines, there are 2 special lines. One line will link the 2 state universities. The universities of Yaoundé 1 in Boekele and University of Yaoundé 2 in Soua. The second special line will link Simalem International Airport and Yaoundé Central Dam. I'm very glad to preside over the ceremony. And I would like to pay tribute to the head of state, His Excellency Paul Biya, for his very right policy, which ameliorates living conditions of population.
After the collapse of the former Sotuk in 1990 and in 1995, Cameroonians are looking forward to a transport company which has come to stay. The new buses paraded some neighborhoods in Yaoundé to present their buses to the population and also to get a taste of its quality. Each passenger will have to chip in a sum of 200 francs CFA for transportation.
Well, as the one and only Tabby Clarkson rightly said, we hope that those buses are in Yaoundé to stay, but I may add that they are better than those in Douala. We'll be leaving Yaoundé and going downward, where once again a proof that the world has gone gaga is this sad news that comes from Nanga, Eboko, where a woman aged 82 has been raped by yet to be identified man. Well, the poor widow met her day or wrong day on her return from the farm. She is currently taken or being medically attended to. Crystal Katala has details on this very sad story from Nanga, Eboko.
This 82-year-old woman is seriously feeling pains at the emergency unit of the Nanga, Eboko District Hospital. The medical body of the hospital has confirmed she was raped. The abominable act was carried out by a non-identified young man over the weekend on her way back from the farm. She was in the farm with her daughter-in-law. It was at about 11:30 a.m. Her daughter-in-law told her to go back and rest, but she insisted to walk again. At about past 2 p.m., a young man called her on her way back, asking her some questions, which she did not respond. He then brutalized her, took her to a small nearby forest, and raped her. Presently, she is on pain. She cannot even walk. She will be discovered 2 hours later in the Abang neighborhood before taken to the hospital. The grandmother is a widow from Bangwa village in the West region. The situation has traumatized the widow, who has refused to eat and can barely stand on her feet. Inhabitants have called on the forces of law and order to arrest the author of the abominable act, who is presently on the run.
It's really an abominable act. As I said, it's one more proof that the world is really in bad shape. But then God is still always there. That is why women pastors of the Evangelical Church of Cameroon have been drilled on how they can better manage their communities. It was during a 3-day capacity building workshop held in Yaoundé, held in Douala, littoral region, over the weekend. Once again, Crystal Katala.
Women pastors of the Evangelical Church of Cameroon say they have been well enriched and equipped to be leaders and to better manage their communities. This was during a 3-day capacity building workshop that held over the weekend in Douala Littoral region on the theme Feminine Leadership and the Management of Communities.
The seminar is within a project how to better the position of women within the church and within the society. And then for that, since they are in charge of churches, in charge of people they have to conduct within their community, they need to have capacity in relation with leadership. So we try to make them know the importance of animating their community, also the importance of do a planification.
Types of leadership, role of a leader, and management of parishes are some of the topics discussed during the workshop.
I think that sometimes we do bad things because we didn't know how to do it. But at the moment, I think that this seminar gives us many lessons, many things to do about managing people in our parish.
Since their consecration in 2001, Women pastors of the Evangelical Church face several difficulties in the course of exercising their mission in the church and in the society.
Nous avons des difficultés.
Our first difficulty is our partner. It is difficult as a man to accept that a woman should be his leader. Generally, in ministries where women are leaders and men follow, it poses a problem. They have to make men to understand that, be it a man or a woman, what matters is the potential.
Et sur la collaboration pour mieux travailler.
These women pastors would therefore need to acquire moral, ethical, and spiritual values in order to impact the life of their Christians. Prophetess Deborah in the book of Judges, chapter 4, verse 4, was quoted as a model to serve as example to the women. At the end of the 3-day workshop, attestations were distributed to participants. The workshop breaks a new dynamism for the women pastors of the Evangelical Church of Cameroon.
On our international page, we will be going to Ivory Coast, where 6 journalists have been charged for spreading false information, and in Kenya, where leaders of the Doctors' Trade Union have been handed 1-month jail sentences for prolonged strikes. And also out of Africa, we shall be going to the Korean Peninsula, where the North Koreans have once again tested a long-range ballistic missile, a test to Donald Trump. And all these compiled to us by Annette Efetie-Some.
6 journalists in Ivory Coast are expected to appear in court. They are charged with spreading false information following a mutiny last week by more than 2,000 soldiers demanding bonus payments. The journalists, who work for 3 opposition newspapers, reported on Saturday that the Ivorian government had agreed to pay the mutinous about $11,000 each to persuade them go back to work. This contradicted an official statement that the troops had apologized and no money was involved. A Kenyan court has jailed 7 union officials for a month over a doctor's strike that has crippled public hospitals for 10 weeks now. The 7 were handcuffed and driven to jail past placard-waving supporters who gathered outside the court. The High Court judge handed them suspension sanctions a month ago, but they ignored it. Jailing them for contempt of court, the judge said they had provided no reasons for the punishment to be deferred. North Korea says it successfully fired a ballistic missile on Sunday in a launch supervised by the president. This last ballistic missile test has been widely condemned. The U.S., Japan, and South Korea have requested an urgent meeting of the United Nations Security Council to discuss the incident. South Korea's defense ministry called it an armed provocation to test the response of U.S. President Donald Trump.
Well, that is all we were able to put together this night here on Canal de English. Please join me tomorrow and always be better, not bitter, no matter the challenges.